Oops! Have you ever had someone like that in your meetings? Maybe you were doing a dinner with a doctor presentation, maybe you were doing a corporate talk and you brought food to the people, and right there as you're delivering your talk, someone like pull their phones and start texting and going on Facebook, and you were talking, you're like, man, this person not respecting me at all. Now what happens then with the other people around that person? Be like, well, if that person is not paying attention, guess what? I'm not gonna pay attention. Now, and then what happens with your certainty or confidence when that's happening? What happens with your conversions in the end of the talk? Goes up or down? For most people, goes down. My name is Roberto Monaco and I am with the Chiro Speaking Company, and in this video I'll be talking about 3 quick ideas that you can do, strategies that you can do to prevent this from happening. By the way, I'm not blaming anybody. That happened to me, happens to a lot of people. Just a month ago, one doctor called me up and said, Roberto, I was doing this stress talk for this company and I was so excited. I went in, and from the beginning of my talk, nobody was paying attention. And just from the beginning, because nobody was paying attention, during my talk, nobody engaged, and then my close was terrible. It really impacted my confidence level. She said, man, I don't feel like I want to speak again because it was terrible. And I remember when I started back in 2002, when I started with Anthony Robbins companies, on my second week on the job, I had a presentation at Wall Street in New York, and I had no speaking game, influence game. I went in and there were like 10 investment bankers, and right in the middle of my talk, 4 people left. It was like very embarrassing, terrible experience. And what happens is that I don't believe that people are not paying attention. What I believe is that they are paying attention on something they perceive to be more important than your talk. Let me say again, when this behavior of people on their phones and chatting and talking and they're not focused on your presentation, your message, it's not that they're not paying attention, it's that they're paying attention, they're focusing on something that they believe to be more important than your talk. Does that make sense? And when this behavior happens, usually, I don't know for you, but for most speakers, they're speaking and they see that happening, and now the confidence goes down because they start thinking, man, they don't like me, they don't like my message, they're not interested. And now even when you go to close, the confidence is so low. That's why the conversion is so low. And I believe that a lot of the times the problem is the content, how the content's organized, and how the content or the information is delivered to the audience. So it's 2 things, the information and the delivery of the information. So 3 quick things you can do. Number 1, movement. Now let's say you're hanging out on your couch, just chilling, and then someone walks in. What do? Immediately, you say, who is this person? All right? You follow movement. Let's say you're sitting down with your dog and your cat, and then someone walks in. What happens? Immediately your dog or your cat, they turn around and look. Why? Because your brain is wired to look for movement. Why? To see, man, I want to fight now, flee, or safe? Am I in danger right now or not? So your brain is wired to notice movement. That's why sometimes I see speakers, they're like this the whole time, they don't move. And when there's no movement, it's hard for people to pay attention. Just notice, if you watch TV, the next commercial, let's say a 30-second commercial, just notice how many times they change the frame. Change the frame meaning they change where you look. Sometimes you look at the car, and then you look at the girl, then you look at a picture from far, then you look at the tire, then the engine. So sometimes in 30-second commercial, they change the frame more than 30 times. It's crazy. Why? To grab your attention. So movement is very important. Now, too much movement can be bad in your presentation, because now people are like, whoa, they just pay attention to movement and they stop paying attention to your message. So it's a balance. Now, the second thing you can do is relate your content information back to the audience's problem. Now, in experienced speakers, they say, okay, I want to grab people's attention. So now they have a great opening, which is a great strategy. But experienced speakers, not only they focus on the opening so that they can grab the audience's attention, but most importantly, they can what? Keep the audience's attention throughout the whole talk. It's a very important distinction. It's not only about grabbing someone's attention, it's about grabbing and keeping attention throughout the whole talk. Why? Because when you have someone's attention, you can induce emotions, induce emotional states, and that's what causes them to create urgency and sign up for your chiropractic care. Every time you speak, the audience fall into one of three categories. Okay, number one, they don't know they have a problem. They don't know they're subluxated. That's a vast majority of people. Number two, they know they have a problem, but they don't have urgency. Maybe they've been to a chiropractor before. They heard about subluxation postures. If you have a bad posture, you have a bad health, but they don't have urgency to change. And the third one, a very small percentage of the audience, is that they know they have a problem, they have urgency, and they are looking for solution, and they are there listening to you to see if the right doctor to help them. Okay? That's why as you're delivering your information, you always want to make sure you poking back or relating back your information into the audience's problem. Very important. And the third tip to engage people's audience is to tell a story. It's crazy to see how many chiropractic talks that I see, and I review talks every day. Every day I review dinner with the doc, group of doctors report, corporate talks, I mean, you name it. I see stress talks, ergonomic talks, you name it. And how many times doctors are going to speak for, I don't know, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour, they don't share any story. And these stories are so important because they create something called identification. Okay? And identification influence is that when you tell a story, someone in the audience can see himself or herself into the character of the story. Because, for example, when you tell a story and I see myself into the character of your story, I'd be like, oh, it's just like me. If that person, the character of your story, is just like me, how am I going to resist myself? I can't. That's why sometimes when you go to a movie with a loved one and you watch a movie, start crying because you're so moved by the character, you identify yourself with the character. And so many doctors have no clue. They don't even have a clue that stories are so important. That's why when you do our influencing from the front for chiropractors, a 3-day event, Persuasive, public speaking for chiros, we spend 8 hours. How many hours? 8 hours teaching you how to use storytelling to move people into action. It's very powerful. In addition to our event, we have our Chiro Speaking Club where we have modules on storytelling training. So again, 3 things that, by the way, go check it out, our event and our club. So 3 things again to make sure people are paying attention to you. Number 1, movement. Make sure you use your physiology when you deliver information. Number 2, relate your information back to the audience's problem. And the third thing you can do is to tell a story. Because as the old saying said, facts tell, stories sell. And if you don't share your story, the marketplace will create one about you, okay? If you're watching this video on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss our next video. And if you're watching this in our Chiro Speaking company website, make sure you can share to other chiropractors friends. I'll talk to you soon.